is so unfair. I'm just trying to help you by exposing you to something new. This is no different from when I helped get you into the paralegal course, or when I gave your family the museum pass, or when I gave you this shirt that you're wearing.
Well, this may surprise you, John, but I was a whole person, living a happy and full life before Miss Booker T. Clayton decided to pull me up by my bootstraps.
Maya, you are taking this the wrong
No,
way.
I'm not. The truth is that we live in two different worlds, and you look down on mine just because nobody can afford nor want some funky Martha Stewart wedding. But you can't even appreciate that I'm rich in other ways. I mean, the fact that my aunt is baking the cakes and my mother is sewing the dresses, and that I have loved one Jones who can celebrate the way I want to celebrate. But how would you know that? But you've known me for a year, and yesterday was the first time you even bothered to come to my house. You know, I'm tired. I'm tired of having to teach white folks what's so special about where I come from, or what colors they need to wear when they come to my neighborhood. But I'm even more tired of having to teach sedity black folks like you.
Right, so for those who aren't familiar with the characters depicted in that clip, that is Joan and Maya from Girlfriends. And you all are familiar with me having done, at this point, 2 analyses on Joan's character. But today, I want to do an analysis on Maya's character. And I know I talk a lot, or mainly dissect a lot on this channel, pretty much just reviewing, analyzing instances where envy is prevalent at the beginning of a platonic friendship or a relationship, or even professionally. But there are instances where envy blossoms over time, or a particular event triggers envious feelings in a previous friend who is now posing themselves as a foe due to those said feelings. So I actually want to use Maya as the muse for this analysis to talk yet again about the cautionary tale of contingent companions, because a lot of the time we find out the hard way that people weren't necessarily our friends. They just associated themselves with us because they felt like we made them look better. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hop right into this analysis. To provide some context on Maya's character, and specifically the role that she played in the friend group, she was the around the way girl, or according to her, the quote unquote ghetto girl. And although she provided some positive attributes to the friend group, such as loyalty, such as holding everyone accountable, such as rooting everybody back to reality due to her background, due to her upbringing, and even honing in on the importance of living by some kind of code, which I believe was also a byproduct of her upbringing and her environment. It didn't necessarily stop the group, or a majority of the members in the group, from belittling Maya, because whether they were privy to it or not, whether it was something that they were conscious of or not, by default, they did speak to her and treat her as if she was less than because of where she lived and because of her background.
What? Why are you looking at me?
I'm sorry, it's why are you looking at me? You dropped verbs.
Tony, I go to college. I don't need you correcting me.
Well, apparently they didn't teach you that a sentence must have a verb.
Well, you know, I did learn that kiss is both a verb and a noun. So how about you give my ass a kiss or kiss my ass?
As we can see there, she had, another moment with Tony where it was another case of her being belittled within the friend group. And Maya even had to explain to her, why are you trying to give me a grammar lesson? I actually graduated from college. And Tony was still trying to go toe to toe with her as far as, well, maybe you missed a course. Maybe you missed a key class that day that taught you a little bit more about grammar. And then Maya had to put her in her place. But yet again, this was another depiction of Maya constantly being viewed as less than, as inadequate, because of the preconceived notions of her quote unquote friends. So both of those experiences that, Maya had to endure with her quote unquote friends, it was yet again another reminder that, okay, I'm amongst a group of people who don't necessarily respect me or view me as if I'm on their level. And I feel like what's super important to take note of is how dangerous associating ourselves with contingent companions can truly be, because they're constantly bringing us down to a level that they perceive we're on. And even in that argument that she had with Tony, where she had to tell her, I actually went to school, so I don't necessarily know where these stereotypes are coming from, or even when we reference the very beginning of this analysis with Joan, how Joan was bringing up, everything that she did for Maya, and Maya had to correct her and state like, okay, there's a difference between spotting your friend in times of need and viewing somebody as a charity case, and also looking down on them in the process. And what's super interesting about Maya's story, though, was even though she started out in the trenches, in the beginning of the friendship, there were instances where she actually began to elevate. And that argument with Joan was one of them, with her proceeding with her wedding. And Maya attempted to bring Joan off of her high horse and tell her like, yeah, you might be rich in, this way, but I'm rich in other ways in respects to my community, or even the fact that people respect me and genuinely love me and want to support me. But as time went on, Maya did eventually become successful in her own right. But the dangerous thing about experiencing or reveling in your elevation and you're still amidst the company of those who view you as less than is oftentimes they will invalidate that elevation, or they will do everything in their power to bring you back down to the level that they're comfortable with you being on. And I've talked about contingent companions before, I believe like on several different analyses at this point. But in particular, when I think about Maya from Girlfriends, I think about the analysis I did of Kim Parker from the show Moesha. Even though she obviously had her own spinoff and, I grew up, we love the Parkers. We love Moesha too. But in that analysis, I was focusing solely on Kim's character on the show Moesha, or at least for majority of that analysis. And I was getting at this same notion that as long as you are around people who view you as less than, or their association with you is contingent upon ruling superior over you, you're not going to get as far as you really could go. You're not going to reach your fullest potential. You're always going to hit a ceiling. And just to reiterate, or to provide some context for those who did not watch that analysis, I'm going to go ahead and read from the book, the Contingent Companion section, to provide some additional details. And it states, this is the envious person whose association with you is contingent upon their superiority and your inferiority. Now, this quote-unquote friend will pose no threat as long as you never aspire for more in life. But in actuality, this companion is a walking liability. No one can guarantee they will never advance or improve in any area of their life, even if by accident. And there's another section that I want to read from in the book to just drive this point in a little bit more, titled The Person Who Believes They're Better Than You. And it states, this is the individual who has convinced themselves they are superior to you in their minds, whether it be they were more popular than you, made more money than you, were deemed more attractive, had more influence or affluence, etc. However, they perceive that they lost their status to you in some way. This person's ego creates an air of delusion where they believe that whatever superiority they previously had or currently have over you makes them deserving of whatever you are achieving currently. So I believe the contingent companion section more so aligned with Joan's character as far as that conflict with superiority and inferiority. I believe the section titled The Person Who Believes They're Better Than You more so aligned with Tony's character in relation to Maya, especially with that scene where she was commenting about Maya's grammar. I believe that was parallel to the section in the book that talks about this person's ego creates an air of delusion. But nevertheless, both of these cases are indicative of being around people who genuinely believe that they rank superior to you, even if in the long run, that's not always the case. It's super important to understand this. As long as someone is dedicated to having that ideal in their mind, they're always going to try to reinforce that narrative. And sometimes they'll go even harder when they realize that you're breaking out of that, cage, that prison that they tried to put you in respects to their perception of you, their ideas of you. They'll fight even harder to keep you in there because it challenges their comfort. And if you're not able to perceive it, you will willingly stay in a cage out of, this guise of wanting to stay in the company of people who you're calling a friend, but they're really contingent companions. And I believe that this also, was significant as Maya was experiencing, wedding planning, getting ready for her wedding. And she started to see that friction arise in Joan, and Joan start pulling, instances in the past out of the grab bag where she was helping Maya, where she was there for Maya, which was completely inappropriate because that's what friends are for. Now, of course, we're human, so if we feel like our friend is kind of stepping out of bounds or is acting a little ungrateful, then yeah, we might remind them like, wait, don't project, your anger or your frustrations onto me because I've always been there for you. I think that that's different from somebody who is desperately pulling out of the grab bag to kind of get you back to a level that they feel like, okay, it doesn't challenge my comfort zone of superiority over them. And I feel like that might have been prevalent in Joan's case. Also, too, the snarky comments that Tony was making. So as you start to, witness that in the midst of your elevation, in the midst of you, getting that professional opportunity or establishing a professional opportunity for yourself and it's super successful, or you're in, a healthy relationship, or you're seeing success with your other friendships, or you and your family is excelling, whatever kind of progress you're making in life, if you're witnessing that people who you thought were your friends are starting to show some kind of tension, or they're kind of making comments about you that's designed to bring you back down to the level you were previously on, you have to take note of that, and furthermore, not take it lightly, and start to maybe implement some, protective measures that may look like you separating yourself or distancing yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's an end-all be-all situation where certain friendships or relationships can't be, preserved, or, something can't be worked out. But a lot of the time when you're dealing with contingent companions, and this head of envy starts to come to the surface, this is where you might have to start cutting your losses. But furthermore, making peace with that decision, because oftentimes it's a decision that's rooted in necessity. Because you will not be able to win, you will not be able to reach your fullest potential if you're around people who are dedicated to keeping you at the same level. All right, babes, that's all that I have for this analysis on contingent companions, with Maya from Girlfriends being our muse. Of course, I want to hear you all's perspectives, your opinions, your comments in the comment section below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking to you guys in the next one. Take care, babes.